So last week I had the privilege of being down at the coast and doing some teaching of theology and doctrine for the Alliance, for the ordinands who are in their course, for various pastoral leaders to really sharpen their theological skills and have great leadership conversations together. So these are really good folks just doing the hard work of local church leadership ministry. But I have to say, I came away from our days together with a little bit of a lament, because there was a recurring theme in the conversations which concerned me a bit, and it wasn't really so much a great surprise, but it was just a reinforcement of something that drastically needs to change, I think, within North American, certainly Western church culture. Let me try and summarize it like this: that these folks felt a genuine pressure and felt the anxiety connected to this pressure, that they were expected in some way to make all the spiritual dreams of their congregation come true. That there was this sort of unspoken expectation that whatever it was that the congregation really wanted to see happen, whether it's in men's ministry or women's ministry or small groups or youth or children or worship or weekend services, especially post-COVID with all of the increased sensibilities, that it's the job of the paid clergy, the paid pastoral leaders and church leadership in general, to really give them all the tools for their own spiritual fulfillment. Now, nobody would ever come out and say that, but that was the underlying theme that just kept recurring with all of these different conversations. They're trying to understand their role, their leadership, their theology, their attitude, their posture in this. So my response to these folks when we're having these various conversations was to say something like this: look, it is not your job to make everyone else's spiritual dreams come true, but it is your responsibility, along with the rest of the congregation, to make God's spiritual dream come true. And God's spiritual dream has a name, it has a substance and a structure, and it is called the Kingdom of God. In the Gospels, Jesus' favourite subject for his teaching and his parables and his instruction was the Kingdom of God, and the beauty and the wonder and the mystery of what that is. And he would use the most mundane things in order to help us understand it. He'd say it's like a seed that's planted in a field, it's like a loaf of bread, it's like a vineyard, it's like a farmer. He would take the most mundane moments of life and baptize them in something beautiful and supernatural and mysterious, and say that's what it's like. That's what it's like when the kingdom and when God's purposes are realized upon the earth. The church has become, I think, somewhat preoccupied with its own comfort. And you could say it's the Starbucks syndrome, that we can go into Starbucks now and we can order whatever we want at the exact temperature and the right ingredients and the little twists and flavours and potions and lotions that they put in it, so that we get the perfect little customized drink. And that has somehow, that whole attitude, that approach to consumerism has heightened our sense of expectation. You could call it a higher level of entitlement, where we want it perfect, just the way we think we should have it. And if we bring that into the church, it becomes toxic, actually. It becomes really destructive for our souls and for the culture of our gathered community as well. So what we need to do is cheer each other on in a different kind of a way. Not that we get the temperature right and the lighting perfect and the volume just so, and etc., and the roast of the coffee, which is something I've actually had a conversation about, would you believe, at one point, for somebody to just feel more at home if we had just had a lighter roast. Unbelievably, that's sometimes the conversation level that we get in the church. But we also know there's more serious issues at stake. But if the posture that we have is that we want our own fulfillment to be the highest priority, then the church is always going to disappoint us, and we will never actually engage properly with what it is God's doing. Whereas when we read Colossians chapter 1, and we realize that in everything Christ has preeminence, that he is the head of the church, that it is his agenda, his dream, his vision that we are to be captivated by, His desire that we are to align with, then we don't show up together saying, how can my needs be met, or what will this do for me? But we rather show up and we say, how can we serve? How can I help you? How can what I bring add to the wider contribution of bringing the kingdom of God, of bringing grace upon grace to the community and the people who need it most, of shining light and truth and love into the lives of the people around about and into each other. So it's this subtle attitude that can have really significant consequences. And like I said, I left encouraged because there's some really quality people involved in church leadership around the Alliance and across the province. But I also left a little bit concerned that there needs to be some fine-tuning and definite adjustments inside the headspace and the heart space of many local churches. So, something to reflect on, some food for thought. Till next time, peace.